Every Hebrew primer introduces Hebrew letters and vowels. Every single one of them provides rows and rows of Hebrew reading opportunities. Recently, a few of the new ones have begun to imitate our earlier work and provide a keyword or heritage word that goes with every letter. But only laba'ot encourages the development of an oral Hebrew vocabulary that then becomes the foundation of the words that students learn to read.
Laba'ot does this with 3 to 5 keywords, which are part of learning each letter, with decoding, spoken Hebrew units, and especially with Siddur word sections that directly lead from reading to liturgical performance.
No other primer has Avi and Mahir, characters who tell their own story as they introduce each letter, vowel, and guide students through special insights into how to read.
And no other primer has ever created a set of materials and even a website to make sure that parents can be involved and that teachers feel supported.
In this short video, we have 2 objectives. We want you to understand the assumptions behind laba'ot, making it clear why we've added new elements to the process of learning how to read.
And we want to give you insights on how to use this material, both in the way that we've conceived it and the way that you can use it in your classroom as a creative teacher. laba'ot is not just a new Hebrew primer. It is a whole system for introducing Hebrew reading.
laba'ot is based on the latest educational research, especially from second language acquisition. In designing these materials, we have used 4 simple assumptions. Learning to read words that are already familiar improves both immediate and long-term success. That is the way that all of us learn to read English, and that is the best pattern for mastering reading in a second language too. Including oral and psychomotor activities allows students with different learning styles a greater chance of success. Here is a simple truth. The more kinds of learning styles you honor in your teaching, the greater the number of your students who will succeed. Putting Hebrew in a context and making it have meaning makes a long-term difference. This will really make a difference in 2 or 3 years when students are struggling with the task of making sense of the liturgy. And finally, fun is good.
Very good. laba'ot offers a teacher a rich assortment of resources. The foundation of this curriculum is the laba'ot textbook. It is a rich and exciting collection of explanations and activities that lead students through the steps of learning how to read Hebrew, letter by letter. laba'ot has been divided into 21 units and 42 lessons. Each of these lessons is 45 minutes long, and finishing one a session should not be a problem. This pacing gives teachers a clear timetable. At the same time, laba'ot allows for absolute teacher creativity. The book sets a target for each lesson, but is the teacher who decides the activities that will be used.
To facilitate this process, we have put a number of tools in the teacher's hands. Alphabet posters, letter flashcards, reading flashcards, and vocabulary posters. In addition, daber ivrit units, chances to learn a few words of spoken Hebrew that come with their own vocabulary flashcards.
There is also a home workbook. This is a workbook that has been designed for use at home. It has a 2-sided perforated worksheet for each classroom lesson. Parents are invited to monitor their child's progress and participate in the learning. Even the parents who don't know Hebrew will succeed, because both the text of the home workbook and the available website ensure their success. In addition, a detailed teacher's guide unfolds this material lesson by lesson. An 800 number and an email address are ready to provide help, and every laba'ot teacher is invited to participate in our ongoing online seminar, the laba'ot Users Group.
We're going to use Lesson 14A, page 104, as our sample. In each of the A lessons, we introduce the new letter and drill it and perhaps teach a few other new elements. In this case, we're working on the letter chet. To introduce chet, we begin with our 4 chet words: chaverim, choshen, chala, and chanukia. We begin using the poster set and intentionally starting with vocabulary.
At the end of the year, we found we had a tremendous use for these cards. We took both of the Aleph classes and split them into cooperative groups of 4 or 5 students, and separated out the cards into categories. And the students had to come up with any type of presentation that they wanted to using these and teaching the class something with the cards that they got. We had some students that did a news broadcast. They had the Torah getting married to the 10 Commandments. I mean, they some silliness, but they knew the words, they learned it, and they felt very comfortable showing the cards. We invited the parents and doing a presentation with words and letters and things that maybe when they came in would never have meant what it did then.
Posters make it really easy to introduce the words. They're really good for review, and they're especially good to play all kinds of games with.
Once we've introduced the vocabulary words, we can now meet the letter and learn its sound. It's the letter chet, the chet which was once a chalon, a window. And you can see the connection between the shape of a window and the shape of the letter chet. The other thing that's on this page that's kind of new and interesting is that at the bottom of the page we have a vowel letter bar. It introduces all the letters that they've learned and all the letters that they have yet to learn, as well as the vowels. Letters in black are letters that are already learned. Letters in red and vowels in red are the new elements added in this lesson. Letters and vowels in blue are the things yet to learn.
Because it was here on the page and it seemed like it had a connection to the students, they felt comfortable and didn't feel like that was something that we've already done. Going back and telling me what are these letters, how about if you take this letter and one of the vowels, put it together. And then they got excited guessing what some of the other ones, some of them that did know, some of them that didn't, that weren't familiar, that were new students. So yeah, it was very helpful.
On the next page, we have a classic reading drill. It's got the yud at the top to assure directionality, the light pastel lines between each of the rows to help kids not get lost. And as a teacher, you know that you ought to begin most of the reading lessons by saying, put your finger on the word and follow the line, because it keeps kids from getting confused. All of the words after the first row are real chet words, and you'll see within it chala, chanukia, choshen, chaverim are chet words which we're actually able to read as part of the exercise. Every single one of those words they know, and all of a sudden they have an exercise where not only do they know in advance what each word is supposed to sound like, but each word has meaning. And all of a sudden here, about halfway through the book, they're working in a language and not just working in sounds.
If you teach just a language, the way I learned Hebrew way back when, and all you're saying is read lines 1 through 12, and if a child raises his hand and asks, what does that mean? And the teacher answers, well, that's not important now, we're just learning to read. That very much discourages a child, especially on a 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade level. Whereas if you can translate and say, see, you can go home and use those words, you know how to say mom and dad, and you can write a greeting card to someone, or you can count and play a game. It becomes real.
Suddenly, you'll have a child, as you're reading this, not realize it at first, and possibly reading, and maybe they're still sounding out a little bit. They have some of the students that may not have made that, looking at it right away, the connection, lulav, and sound out and say, oh, I know what that is. I remember we learned that that's, from Sukkot and different things like that. So it does, and then there's some that look at it and say, oh, I know, it's Shabbat. And don't even do the sounding out and remember.
We've included on line 4, at the end of the line, there's mahir saying careful. The word chana is very possibly confused because the letter chet and the hey look so similar. We've added the mahir character to say careful so that students will be careful reading words. At the bottom of the page, we have a writing exercise. It says, ready, set, make a chet. In this case, we're writing both letters and words. Here we have Chanukah and Challah. We do a lot of writing, especially as part of the Home Workbook activities, because we believe the psychomotor connection is an important way for some students to learn.
The theory says that there are really students for whom writing makes a difference. In other words, there are students who can't just look at the letter, but could, by shaping the letter themselves, really have a better grasp of it.
Yeah, there were some students that we could read it several times and the connection wasn't there, but then talking about it as they were physically doing the writing really made the connection for some of those students, and then they were able to retain it and use it again.
When we turn the page, Avi teaches us an important reading secret. He says, the chet is a funny letter. At the end of the word, chet with a patach is pronounced ach.
Boreach, boreach, beruach, lishabeach, mashiach, avatiach.
At the bottom of the page, we've got one of the Siddur word exercises. In the beginning of the book, Siddur words are just literally words. Here we're at a point where we're already reading phrases from the Siddur. By the end of the book, we've got enough letters to actually read whole prayers. One of the things you'll see happen here that's really amazing is you'll see the students read a phrase from the Aleinu, recognize it, and have this great moment of connection and discovery.
Malech, Kre, Hamelachim.
Will you remember? V'anachnu korim umishtachavim u'modim. What comes next? Malchei hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu. Okay.
As part of the Siddur word section, we also work on a skill that'll be really helpful next year and the year after as students struggle with the meaning of prayers. We begin to teach them to recognize roots. The blue box on this page reads, the three letters Mem, Lamed, Chaf mean rule. 4 words in this exercise use these letters in this order. Can you find them?
The lesson ends with a word search. It uses the vocabulary that they've used up to this point.
That's right, check it off, otherwise you won't know whether you're getting it or not. Everybody gets dove first.
I got
You got Caleb first? And Batan right in the middle because it's in the middle of the puzzle. That's a perfect place for them to put it.
At the bottom of the page is a stop sign. This is a clue to teachers that this is a good place to stop.
Everybody get up.
Lesson 14b, like most of the B lessons, is a place to review and enrich. Here we will look at an Avi story, a Daberi Vrit unit, and some of our fun ways of drilling reading. Everyone who uses a primer knows that reading, and more reading is what you have to do in order to learn a language. We've added in laba'ot puzzles, races, and all kinds of fun ways to drill language without actually being boring in reading.
On your mark, get set, go. You have to be aware of competition, but at the same time, most kids like the competition, like the game, like going, working as a team or up against somebody else. They really were having a great time, and at the same time, we're learning something, and sometimes I don't even think they realize. I said, oh, wait, I know this now, I learned it, and it was just a real easy way to get the job done.
Competition is a really good tool, but it's also a dangerous one. It can create embarrassment and shame. A teacher using these races and other competitive activities has to be really careful that the environment is appropriate and doesn't get out of hand.
Every student had read words successfully, some more than others. Every student had garnered points for their team, and she made a point of saying that to everybody. That was real important. That was very good teaching.
The Avi stories do a number of different things. They give learners who are better at whole word than phonetics their own chance to shine. They create a moment of identification and are a lot of fun. But most importantly, they make Hebrew into a value and not just a set of tasks.
An icon at the top tells teachers and students, before you start this book, your teacher will help you read this true story. Follow along with your finger, and your teacher will read the Hebrew words. Shalom, I am a Caleb. My name is Mahir. I belong to Avi. At first I used to bark like an ordinary dog. I said bow wow, woof, and arf. Then Avi taught me that Hebrew-speaking dogs say hav. Now I say hav, 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 hav. Avi and Mahir lead us through this book. Eventually we find out that Avi is Eliezer ben Yehuda, the father of the modern Hebrew language.
Bonjour.
Caleb.
Sleep a lot. Most
Caleb.
do. I sleep a lot. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, and off and on at
Night.
and
Avi.
would explain to
Torah.
that there was no word in ancient Hebrew for handkerchief. I guess they didn't invent it yet. So,
Avi.
found an ancient word meaning whip your nose. Whip. Yep, that's.
White.
And he changed it to make mim chata. Let's say that. Mim chata.
One of my favorite things about the Avi stories, in addition to the Hebrew culture and history of Hebrew culture that it teaches, is that the kids really like them. And I've seen lots of times when the kids want to get to the next part of the story. Like, okay, I want to learn letters, I want to learn words, but what happens next? It's almost like a cliffhanger the way you put the stories in, and that's a very good thing for the kids. It keeps them excited.
Scattered throughout the laba'ot book are 10 Daberi Read lessons. These are short, noun-based lessons that teach children a little bit about Israel and a little bit about spoken Hebrew.
Follow along. The beach in Israel is great, especially in Tel Aviv. It is busy and crowded along the beach in
Tel Aviv.
There are tall hotel buildings. Falafel
Pizza.
and ice cream are the most popular snacks to buy. People selling ice cream popsicle sticks walk up and down the beach yelling,
Arctic.
the name of the most popular popsicle.
Daberi Read pieces come in 3 parts. The first is a story written by Micah Rapp about his 4th grade year in Israel. Second is a chance to learn 8 related nouns. In this beach unit, we're actually learning body parts.
And your, and your, and both of these,
Red line.
and your,
Yeah.
When they read these icons across, they're actually identifying the words by sight, building a sight vocabulary. These words not only become part of the Daberi Read units, but they also become part of the vocabulary in the rest of the book.
Daberi Vrit units do a number of things. They first of all help to make Hebrew a living language connected to the land of Israel. They second of all continue to build a vocabulary base that becomes a reading base. And finally, they're an awful lot of fun.
behind.
Hot. Better.
The homework book was excellent. It was a really good way of the students following up on what they've learned. We certainly worked on it in class, but the fact that they had that at home with them was an extra connection. It gave them a chance to show off to their parents, sometimes for the parents to give them some guidance.
When Roger or Dana get home from Hebrew school, the Home Workbook is waiting.
It's a good tool, and he likes to do the homework. I think maybe because the association of what he's just learned. So he's very anxious to kind of keep up with it, and the way they have it structured in terms of the weeks passing and the amount of work coordinated with the class schedules. He likes to keep pace with that. So.
At the top of the page for this lesson, the student begins by reading, "Today I learned the letter chet, which also makes the sound you make to clear your throat. When you put the chet with a vowel, it says cha. If the chet has a vowel under it at the end of a word, it says ach, as in luach. This is a review of what has been learned in class. Some students will be able to successfully read this text at home. Some parents will be able to help their children. But if there are any doubts, the family can log onto the internet and hear this and every other part of the exercise read out loud correctly.
I know the website would be a great asset. In fact, I had friends visiting at my house, parents of students in our other Aleph class, and I showed them the website. And the kids were excited. Parents wanted to look. Kids said, "No, let me do it." And they were doing the exercises, listening to the voice, looking at the answers that are displayed on the website. And the parents, in this particular family, the parents were very Hebrew literate, but the parents were hanging back and saying, "Cool, oh, can I see, can I push?" So I'm confident that the website's going to be very helpful.
I feel that my students that are going to be going up to the Beck class, they have really accomplished a lot. They've come a long way from where they came in and really are ready to start tackling the more difficult skills that they're going to have to do with the translation, and just they can read.
I think this group is better prepared than other Aleph classes that I've worked with over the years. There are some parents who are comparing even their children in the Aleph class to children in later years, and rightly or wrongly assuming or believing that their Aleph class students now know more.
Bayom Hahu
Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. Very good.
In creating the vision that became laba'ot, we turned to the best of learning theory and the best of second language acquisition research. We used 4 assumptions. Learning to read words that are already familiar improves both immediate and long-term success. Including oral and psychomotor activities allows students with different learning styles a greater chance of success. Putting Hebrew in a context and making it have meaning makes a long-term difference. And finally, fun is good. Our field testing has told us that these assumptions and these materials really make a difference.
Email us at missrod@torah.com, or check out the laba'ot Teachers User Group at the Torah Or Productions website, www.torah.com. Let us know about your successes.
The students are still going to learn all the important skills, all the letters, all the words, all the vowels. They're also going to have a real good time doing it. The book is set up in such a way that all different learners are going to benefit, and at the same time they're going to have a great time and leave with really being able to accomplish the task.